Thank you so much for being here. Sunny is the founder of Personal Mastery Quest, School of Awakening, which helps people dissolve mind identification and be free of emotional suffering. With a primary focus on the principles of acceptance and self-inquiry, Sunny guides people towards deeper spiritual understanding and self-knowledge. So thank you so much for being here, brother. If you want to just start out by telling us a little bit about how, your journey evolved and how your school came about, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor. And thank you for that guided meditation as well. So I'll try to keep it fairly short and then we could get into Q&As. But my journey started very similarly to how most of our journeys begin, through deep suffering. I remember all of my early childhood and just early life, I was very overweight. And so I didn't have a good relationship with myself. I was deeply insecure. I remember being very shy, had a very low self-image, always wanted to be like others, so didn't have a good relationship with myself. And I remember I tried losing weight many times, and every single time I failed. But there was this one time in late high school where I really was so passionate and so committed to it that I really lost a lot of weight all at once. So at that time, I lost about 80 pounds or so. And it was funny though, because then I became too skinny. And the same insecurity that was using my overweightness, was attacking that and using that a reason to be unhappy. Now it was triggered towards, still not being enough, still being unworthy. And not only that, though, at that time, my body lost all balance. So I had a back injury. Um, so I had a few herniated discs, and I really started to go through a period of great suffering. So that injury stayed with me, for many years, during which, again, not only now I had deep insecurities and lack of self-belief, self-image, but it's almost like that all manifested as physical pain. And, so during those years, it became even like the suffering started to get more and more intense, and my belief system was really shattering. So over time, I was lucky enough to encounter a spiritual teacher. He was a Ayurvedic practitioner and Reiki practitioner. So he really helped open my mind at that time to the possibility that I could heal. Even though I had a very rigid belief system at that time, I was very materialist and had almost lost all hope in a way. But yeah, that was the beginning of my introduction to spirituality. But still, I wasn't really willing. So I remember just working with him for 10 days, though, with the convincing of my mother. I did experience a drastic change. And, that opened my mind up, because I was like, 10 days, just 10 days of working with him brought me more relief from my pain than years of sort of, going to doctors and therapy and all these other practices. So that really intrigued my interest, but I still was not really into it. I really wasn't interested, didn't have that belief. So just kept doing what I was doing, just kept going on, and just the suffering just kept on getting more and more intense, until finally I was so shattered that I was open to reaching out to him and just showing me the way. I was so surrendered at that time. And that's what I believe about suffering. It's such a great awakening agent, because it really, once you've exhausted all options of your mind's way to control life, and you still come to nothing, and you still, then you really start to question. And so at that time, I started working with him, and started to, and some self-betterment teachings and early spiritual teachings about meditation, they started coming into my life. And so the healing process that ensued, that's what really lit a fire in me. I was very, very excited at that time. I once again had hope. So then I really began to intensely approach this whole self-betterment journey, the empowerment, because I felt so, all these great limitations. My solution was, right now, let's experience this limitlessness that all these books and all these teachings are sort of talking about. And so I really became very passionate. And around this time, I was about to graduate college, and just experiencing my healing journey and knowing the potential that these teachings had, it really made me excited. So At that time, I was about to graduate college, and I was studying finance at the time. And I no longer resonated with it. I knew that I had to go a different route. I was in a business fraternity at that time, and I remember at the time all my friends were getting their full-time offers from these companies in New York City and everything. And I just no longer even wanted to apply to those jobs because I was interning in New York City at that time during the summers when I used to come home from college. And I used to experience everybody at work, regardless of how much money they made and what lifestyle they had, they were, they weren't really truly happy. And I would be taking an hour train into the city every single day, and I would notice that all these guys in suits, and the path that I was going down, they weren't really happy. And I would speak to many of them. They were very stressed, and they weren't, feeling like that's what they wanted to do. So, when I used to come back during the evening time with them, I used to notice that, everybody had a beer in their hand, and it was like the sigh of relief after a long day. And that was like the best part of their day. And at that time, I wasn't really necessarily coming from judgment, but it was just realizing that I no longer wanted to go down this path, and me discovering all these teachings and, be really resonating with them. And I started to come along the teaching of finding your own passion. So what I decided to do is not applying to any job, coming out of college, which was a very, very courageous thing for me to do at that time, because it was a big risk that I was taking, spending all this money to go to college. And then also now no longer deciding to pursue like I did graduate, but I didn't pursue any job after I graduated. So I just took a 2-month solo trip across the country where I traveled alone. And that was my like way of just discovering my passion, what I wanted to do with my life. And during that trip is where I just really started to share my journey, what allowed me to heal, what allowed me to empower myself. And that was the beginning of Personal Mastery Quest. So in the beginning, the teaching was really focused on empowerment and creating the life that you really want to live, empowering yourself as an individual, which I really started to do. I really started to, at that time, the blog turned into YouTube channel and whatnot. So the journey really kept unfolding, and I was becoming very, my self-image was becoming much better. My whole belief system was transforming, and I began to help others do the same. So I really started to, little by little, create the life that I wanted to live, and my version of success, I was living it at that time. And so what I noticed though, regardless of how successful I became in my own eyes, no matter how many trips I took, how much I traveled, how much money I made, or how good I felt in my own body also, still, my mind was restless. No matter, even if I'm on vacation or just any sort of experience, there's always what's happening next. What do I need to achieve next? What can I potentially lose? There's always, mind is always plagued with fear. It's always plagued with a deep yearning for more experience, more things, more objects, more attainment, avoiding loss. And so I really started to observe this tendency of the mind at that time. And I would notice in all the entrepreneur groups that I was in, I would see these people make a lot of money, like every single month. And I'm speaking to some of them, but they still have this, no matter how much money they made, it was never enough. No matter how much success, material success they created, they still didn't, like that sense of lack in the mind never feels fulfilled. There's always more to do. There's always more to attain. There's always more to avoid losing, also to protect. And so I started to see that, before when I was experiencing great limitation, the answer to that was, okay, now experience limitlessness. But the limitlessness that I was chasing was, right, again, in the material realm, like what we believe when we have nothing and we are completely shattered is that, okay, if my health was perfect, then I'll be happy. So you get the health. Then you're like, okay, but if I had a relationship, then I'll be happy. That same lack. And so you get the relationship, and before, the lack of relationship was a problem and a cause for suffering, but now the relationship itself, we start to suffer sometimes. Or then you go for the money route, and it's like you make as much money, but you see, okay, then you're still not happy. And I was very fortunate to experience all these things, having a lack of them and then having an abundance of every single thing. And then really coming to the realization that none of these things have the power to, they're not making me like truly fulfilled. No doubt about it. I was living a good life and I was happy in a way we talk about being happy, but inwardly I would observe the mind always being restless, not at peace. And so that is not the happiness that I really wanted. That is not that is not my idea of fulfillment. And I don't believe it is true fulfillment. So that is when the teaching of, I was on a meditation retreat in California in Self-Realization Fellowship. It's a ashram developed by Yogananda. So I remember I read his book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and I booked a retreat. It was like a 4-day silent retreat. And I took a book with me, which I had just bought on Amazon. I don't even know how I stumbled upon it, but it was called Who Am I by Sri Ramana Maharshi. And that was my introduction to self-inquiry. It really woke me up to the same sort of realization that I was sort of having at that time, that no object, material or subtle, has the power to bring you happiness. You see? And that we are always immersed in the world of objects, whether it be physical objects or subtle objects like thoughts and feelings. We are always immersed in what we are aware of. In that book, I discovered that true happiness, true fulfillment cannot be found in the realm of what you are aware of, in what can be experienced, but rather to go within and become curious about that which is aware. So rather than being immersed in the world of what you are aware of, right? Which is just the conventional world, our thoughts, emotions, our ideas about ourselves, our ideas about the world. This is the projected world. It's almost like all these filters, which are just always, filtering our experience, all these beliefs. So inquiry was my invitation to challenge many of these belief systems about who I am, what life is. And it resonated with me because it was a very direct teaching. It was not a belief, not some sort of practice this for this much time and then you'll one day get there, but rather look into your direct experience here and now. Right now you're experiencing a body, right? You're experiencing a certain set of thoughts. Right now you have a certain belief system. You have a certain idea about who you are, your self-image, about what the world is. All these things, let's say 1 year ago or 5 years ago, you were experiencing a different body. You had a different bundle of thoughts in your head, craving something else and trying to avoid something else. Your idea about yourself was also very different. Your personality, who you took yourself to be, was very different. Your idea about the world was very different. But you still feel that I am me, I am myself. You don't feel like you're changing. You feel like a continuous self. Your experience of yourself is always I, me, myself. Yet everything you take yourself to be is always changing. So so self-inquiry really exposed this assumption that we take ourselves to be a changeful entity. Yet our direct experience of ourselves, if we are to look directly in our experience of ourselves, the closest, most intimate experience is always I, me, myself. So that is the inquiry. What is that? That which is continuous, that which is aware of the changing world, changing mind, changing emotions, changing belief structure, changing personality. What stays the same while all of this changes? So nobody denies, if I was to ask you, is the world around you changing, right? Everybody, it's a very observable fact that all circumstances are coming and going. Life is moving in front of you. But when it comes to yourself, you don't really sometimes look at this closely, because just like the appearances in the world, the circumstances, just like that, our body is changing. Just like that, our idea of ourself, our personality, all of this is changeful. When we take ourselves to be a changeful self, right? to maintain this appearance of being a changeful self, we constantly need to add on ideas about what we are to support this sort of self-image, to support the egoic structure. And we're always in fear of what can we lose? So that is where the constant psychological chatter comes in. It's always recreating our self-image, our ideas. It's feeding into our belief systems. And so that is, that was sort of my next phase of my journey, where I now, rather than just chasing objects or chasing things in the world, chasing happiness in the world, I started to really go within and to inquire about, okay, I've seen enough of the changeful. I understand, that happiness is nowhere to be found in here. I've had all the peak experiences that I thought happiness were, but it's fleeting. It comes and it goes right away. And then again, you're just in that state of chasing fulfillment. So now I was going within, who am I? What is aware? We take knowledge, we take awareness for granted. We just take it to be, yeah, it's just, this is life. But think about what a miracle being aware is. To know, it is a prerequisite to having any experience. And so that was like, I really became passionate about that teaching. And that's also when I started to change the theme of my channel as well. I started to, rather than, I felt like I had said all I needed to say about manifestation and empowerment. Now it's time to share the transformation that I was going through at that time, which was in regards, and I really started to experience that this was, the way to happiness, the way to peace. And it's not on the other side of some achievement or attainment in the future. It is here and it is available. So that is the teaching that I try to share. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's amazing, son. Thank you so much for that. And I'm sure there's so much like peace within that whole process. Is that the basis of your schooling? Like, so you work with individuals to try to like help them connect with that essence of what is always here and unchanging?
Yeah, so I remember just a few months ago, I was I didn't have this whole, like, I hadn't built the whole like School of Awakening, what I call it now, but it was just a program that I was doing, and I was seeing that what I really, what I started to resonate with, what I was inspired to do was create a sort of a school where I can lead people through the sort of stages of this sort of awakening, from beginning meditation to emotional mastery, to the depths of self-inquiry, to understanding who we are. So yeah, that's the whole idea behind it, and just trying to improve that as well. Just trying to create a very, very simple path, because this teaching has sometimes many distractions, sometimes many confusions. The mind gets entangled, and then it makes spirituality itself into a problem. Like the teaching that's trying to liberate you, the mind makes that into a problem. It makes that into a confusion, and sometimes we often get entangled in that. So the goal is to just create a simple sort of guidance, a sort of teaching for you to follow, and to, in your direct experience, verify the truth for yourself.
That's amazing. I'm going to ask one more question, then we'll open it up to anyone here. If you have a question, just raise your Zoom hand and I'll unmute you. But my question is, I want to take it back to the beginning when you first had that 10 days on Ayurveda. We haven't had too many people really come and talk about Ayurveda, but I know it's profound. I practiced it for a little while. I just would love to hear you talk a little bit more about your experience with Ayurveda, what it is to you, and kind of how that 10 days really shaped you.
Yeah. So Ayurveda is and trust me, I don't know much about it either. It was one of those things where I was just practicing what I was told because I was so deeply surrendered to that. I was just like, there's no other option, so I might as well do this. But I wasn't necessarily so passionate, didn't go into learning so much about Ayurveda. I was just doing what I was practicing. But the little of it that I did practice is, it's basically the science of food. It's a science of body, so what you should be eating and what you should be consuming and how you should sort of conduct your life based on your body type. So rather than just eating whatever you want, drinking whatever you want. Certain foods don't resonate as much with a particular type of body. In Ayurveda, there's typically three doshas, three constitutions, and so everybody sort of falls in between the three, and you may lap over and it's a mix, but you eat certain foods according to what your body needs, rather than just eating based on taste and desire. You're eating based on what your body needs, and when we align what your body needs with what you're consuming, then naturally you experience greater health. So at that time, I was obviously following that sort of diet, along with like I had to go do certain, like I got into yoga, just typical like hatha yoga, and a little bit of Reiki healing, and also just a massage. And so the whole holistic sort of system was the 10-day process that really brought me a lot of pain relief at that time.
Now, do you still practice anything in regards to like nutrition, specifically like in Ayurveda? And the reason I ask is because there's been several people that have mentioned to me that you have this glow about you, that you actually radiate great health. So I'm just curious if there's anything you do specifically.
Actually, no. I'm not very strict on nutrition. I
Mm.
understand that was a phase where I really needed to be, but ultimately now I've noticed, and also I'm sure you've experienced this as well in your own meditation, and as you grow in awareness, naturally you will behave in a way that is more sort of beneficial to you, more harmonious. Your thinking, your feeling, your doing, and your eating and consume whatever you consume also sort of becomes aligned with what actually makes you feel good, rather than what robs you of energy. So as I started to go down this path of meditation, I started to just naturally become more attentive towards what would make my body feel the way, like after eating this, how does my body feel? Or even like, let's say, looking at a particular food or whatever, you can just see, if your body resonates with it. So just this greater attentiveness to your experience, it will show you, and that's like the sort of intelligence built into this whole experience, is like, you were always sort of being guided in that way. If it requires a greater degree of attention, of awareness.
I have a
That way,
question.
we always see it, like that we are guided to what we like, whatever path, whatever food, whatever that we need to go towards. So no strict diet or nutrition now, but just a general, like, eating a balanced diet. That's about it.
I love that answer, man. Thank you for that. I see Joe with his hand up, and then I think Lucy, you have a question next. So I'll get to you next, Lucy. Go ahead, Joe, whenever
Yeah, I
you're
have
ready.
a question. How, with all this teaching, you deal with physical pain? If you have a present moment, physical pain, how you deal with this?
So just to be clear, are you asking how to deal with the pain in this moment?
Yeah.
So notice how in each moment, we are usually just lost in projection about what is, rather than fully experiencing what is, whatever emotion, whatever circumstance, whatever experience. We are always lost in ideas about what is. We are lost in preferences about what should be, or resistances about what should not be. And time, right? When it should be, when it should not be, how this should come about. So we have a deep, the psychological chatter has a deep desire to control and manipulate experience. And you'll see that more than the pain, you suffer actually this projection, this constant chatter. The pain is very actual, the sensation is very actual, it's factual. But the thought about pain is just an idea. The thought that pain should not be is just an idea. The thought that wants to get rid of the pain is just an idea. And in those ideas is where the resistance to pain is. So not only is the pain uncomfortable, right? I'm for sure it's not a comfortable sensation, but in the end, it is just a sensation. But on top of that, the resistance towards pain is the place of suffering. And so for pain, what I've personally practiced, and it has brought me great, not only relief from pain, but understanding of pain. Because you see, the point of this is not to just get rid of pain, because again, that's just your idea of what should be and what should not be. Pain should not be here because it's negative, you know? There's just a template through which we perceive pain. That's why we suffer it so greatly. That's why we run away from it and avoid it. But what I would suggest to you is to step out of this world of projection, which is just ideas about pain, to the actual reality of pain. Once you begin to become aware of the sensation without any idea about the sensation, tune into the actual experience of pain. And it may be difficult, but it is very possible. And you will recognize, if this teaching resonates with you and you try it, you will recognize your capacity to do so, to experience even pain. Just like you have, you know, any sort of pleasurable feeling, you welcome to your life with open arms. You don't have to be happy about pain, but you can at least offer it that same embrace where you give yourself to it totally. Be aware of pain without even the label pain, without the label bad, negative. And you will experience pain in a whole different way that perhaps you've never experienced before. In that moment, be free of your desire for the pain to be gone. You see, that's another belief which, you know, is sort of filtering the observing of pain. So our objective here is to perceive pain free of all filters, to be aware and to allow pain, just the sensation, to tune into it, having no agenda for it, having no judgment towards it. If the judgments arise, right, which is a natural thing that will happen, acknowledge even the judgment, observe even the judgment, and just no longer buy into it, at least for this moment. That which is aware of the judgment is not offering any judgment itself. It is just a plain witnessing, a pure awareness of it. In this way, you will see, you will quite literally dissolve the mental prison of right, just clinging on to pleasure and avoiding pain. But rather you will be able to have a more authentic relationship with life, where both the positive and the negative are sort of allowed to be when they arise and subside, because that is a very natural part of this experience. If you pay attention to your entire life, you see that it goes through these ups and downs, these positives, negatives. As long as we are, you know, we're just usually stuck in clinging to the good and avoiding the bad. And that's why we feel so stuck oftentimes. That's why we feel like that's the element we suffer, that clinging and resisting. But when we begin to be aware of what is, free from our projection, right, which is just our conditioning, our past, our belief systems, then not only do we have a brand new relationship with life, where we live in acceptance and allowance of what is, but also these egoic structures, right, these belief systems begin to automatically vanish. The nature of your thinking and your perceiving also changes. And also you start to recognize the lesson that the pain is trying to wake you up to, which is ultimately why the pain is there. But lost in our belief systems about it, we remain blinded to the lesson. And so you start to really acknowledge the intelligence that is really moving all this about, that is much grander than your little teeny tiny intelligence up here. So it's almost like stepping out of this into the universal harmony with just the simple here and now act of knowing, being aware. And that's what I typically teach as acceptance. That's just the word that I find best fits that.
Thank you.
Hope that helped.
Thank you, Lucy, for that question. I see brother Joe has got his hand up. Whenever you're ready, Joe.
Thank you, brother. Yo, Sonny, this is awesome, man, because listening to your story is actually helping me making me think more about a concept that's really been prevalent in my life lately. The fact that you went both ends of the spectrum of what it is to be human,
Yeah.
really gives credence to what it is that I've been thinking a lot about lately. And I've been talking to Kyle and Kristen and other people in the collective about this, is that I feel like as humans, and I'm basically asking to see if this resonates with you. I feel like as humans, we've escaped the idea of what it is to be natural and in tune with nature, and we're caught up in human concepts and ideals that we follow those patterns just because we've lost what it is to be in tune with nature, and not think like all the stuff that we fabricated as human is human concepts. To want these things and these items are human concepts. And if you watch nature, there's a very simple concept. It's just like, don't die, eat, and procreate your species. I mean, granted, I don't want to take away from the fact that we are an amazing species and we are self-actualizing and we can do all these cool things. But maybe, do you see as that we're going through a stage of evolution right now where we like played the game of experiencing what it is to be human and getting to taste the zest of our creations and our ability to do so? But maybe it's time to get back to this idea of using our intelligence that we have, and now that we know we have it in the way that we have it, and maybe being in harmony with nature, because that's what it sounds like Ayurveda is. You pay attention to what your body's telling you to eat versus a little voice inside your head that's like, well, yeah, pizza exists and so does a cake and cookies. But
Yeah.
you know you're supposed to have X, Y, and Z because your gut is telling you this. It's like about being like your own disciplinarian.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, do you see is that like are we evolving into a new phase of being able to be basically our own parent and be in tune with a harmony that's been existing forever?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, with the rise of social media and internet and um, this whole, materialism is now greater than ever in a way, but because it is so great and because it's so accessible, we can, this whole understanding is coming out that you can achieve whatever you want. You can create whatever you want. You can attain whatever you want. If we are fortunate enough to do so, we really do realize that even that is not the answer. So you can get any sort of object, you can attain any sort of thing. And usually these ideas of what we want, and this is just our conditioned belief system, where we are raised, what we are taught, what we see others having in these, in just a general worldview, we believe, okay, we set all these conditions, this is what will make me happy. And so we go after all of these things. And sometimes we are destructive in doing so. We sometimes hurt ourselves in that pursuit, our health, sometimes hurt others, take away from others, whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean so, but sometimes we do that. Sometimes we become destructive. And you can look at the species, like we've sort of destroyed the planet to get what we want in a way, to chase our happiness. So I believe that realizing these things will just allow us to realign our intention. Rather than just chasing the acquisition of objects and material gain, now I believe as people have this sort of realization more and more that, it is not in the object, it is not in this achievement. So yeah, I think that's going to transform intelligence into a whole different direction, where we will be, I believe, more in touch, in tune with what is relevant for us, what is sort of beneficial to us and everybody else too. I think a large part of this, especially the spiritual path, is it's the deeper you go into it, the less self-centered you become, right? When you begin this journey, it's all just about this little me and mine, what I can get from it. But ultimately, and I will exhaust everything else, and I will perhaps even hurt everything else just to get what I want. But ultimately, it becomes more and more about the sort of the collective benefit. And so I think that's a beautiful aspect of it. Even like certain things that we look outside in the world today and we say that should not be there, but we can sort of look at it in a new way, where these things are going to wake people up to that same realization of ultimately who they are deep within, and also what is good for the collective as well.
That's awesome, man. I don't want to take up too much time, but do you also see, because this is something that I've been conceptually messing with, like I love how you said like you practiced Ayurveda for a while, but now it's something that, you know, it doesn't live ultra present in your mind. And I feel like we get gluttonous as humans in both directions. We swing pendulums really heavy one way and really heavy the other way. And I think that one of the gifts of being human is the ability to experience all these things, but then have the discipline to be able to know that it's okay. Like you can touch it, but don't hold your hand on it because you're going to get burned.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we have like, do you see like that we could still be able to experience these human things that we're experiencing because we've created great, cool things, but we've been gluttonous enough with them that they do destroy things. Like I've said this to Kyle before, like, I love drag racing. I do. I think it's the greatest thing ever. I think it's awesome, but I know it's terrible for the freaking planet. I know it's terrible, but how can we do these things that have welled up a sense of happiness for the short term, which I think is healthy for the human body to experience these things that give you these zest and rushes of joy without it becoming an addictive, gluttonous thing that we just sop every bit of energy out of every other thing so we can experience this one thing over and over and over and over again to the point where maybe it doesn't become happiness anymore, it becomes work. You know what I mean? I mean, how do we get into the part of the brain where we can be disciplined enough to play the dance of a slow swing in the pendulum versus the, oh shit, I should go back. Oh wait, I should go back, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
It's not in the part of the brain, you see, you know, or it's not just in ideas about how it should be done. This goes back to what I said earlier in regards to stepping out of this and stepping into the grander intelligence, which is not in the form of words or language, but it is the same intelligence which keeps our heart beating, which keeps the planet, you know, going. So what I've experienced is that as we grow in our awareness of ourself, as we go within, many of these natural destructive tendencies of the mind are cleansed. You know, like going within is not a rejection of experience, is not a rejection of the beautiful experience of achievement, of creating, of living a very full life. Actually, only when we go within and we cleanse the mind of certain belief systems and certain tendencies can we really, and when we really start to like go within into that sort of emptiness of content, can we really then come back to the fullness of experience and live with that zest without the constant insecurity, constant greed, and sense of manipulation and control, in tune with harmony and nature itself. So I believe that, yeah, going within is not a rejection of life as we know it, of personal endeavor and everything, but rather if anything, it cleanses it of many of those self-centered notions which are destructive. So there's no particular answer to, you know, like what that solution will be, let's say for drag racing or whatever. But as we go within and retreat into that which is beyond personality, beyond our interests and dislikes, then even our personality is cleansed, even our desires themselves, you know, all the belief systems themselves are purified and come more into alignment with just what serves us and the rest. Yeah,
That's beautiful, man. Thank you so much,
you.
man. Thank you very much. That was awesome.
Thank you, Joe. I see Brother Raphael with his hand up. Whenever you're ready, Raph.
Good morning. Hello.
How you doing?
Thank you for your presentation. I'm a real consciousness and brain geek, and I've done a lot of reading in this area. And the question comes up, and I'm sure you've heard it before, about the big question of consciousness and where it comes from and where it resides. So, you know, you may have heard of the split brain theory, where, you know, people that have had their brains, actually the connection point between their brains severed because of epileptic seizures or whatever, have the experience of actually having two separate minds and two separate consciousnesses within the same brain. And it brings to me the question that I haven't been able to answer. Which one is you? And maybe neither is you. But if that's the case, then where is the consciousness that is you coming from, or where does it live when it's inside you?
So this is definitely an ongoing discovery for myself and also everybody that's pondering this question. Even I know this is such the hard problem of consciousness, such a big theme in modern day science. Also, and we're trying to locate this consciousness or see what its cause is. And so it itself is an ongoing discussion and discovery. But I believe sometimes this questioning also of trying to locate consciousness or find the cause of consciousness, it's itself coming from the limitation of the paradigm of cause and effect, of time and space. We're trying to locate consciousness, but like if you cut up the brain, you're not going to find consciousness. If you cut up the body, you're not going to find it there. Even the contents of your mind, even the thoughts. So that's where inquiry sort of invites you to rather than, and there's a place for these sorts of contemplations and ideas and theories as well, but always resorting to your direct experience here and now. It's a fact. Can you deny? Are you aware right
Absolutely.
now?
Yes.
Right? It's an undoubtable fact, because even to say I am not aware, you first must be, you must first be aware. So the teaching of inquiry invites you to just stick with that fact of knowing. Even before you say I am aware, you are aware. It's just this knowing that is here. And to be, so it's an invitation to inquire into, okay, what is that awareness, right? What is aware? Is it the body that is aware? So you begin to see that the body has always been changing. It is right now. It looks like this. It feels like this. And nobody denies that today's body is different than the body you experienced previously. So you start to see that I am aware. There's an awareness of the body changing. The body, in awareness, it's seen to be changing. And so you start to then bring that inquiry a little subtler. So, okay, is it the mind that is aware, right? Is it these thoughts that are aware? If you pay attention and you see it, you clearly see that even these thoughts, there's an awareness of. Even these thoughts, which are very subtle, right? The eyes cannot see the thoughts, right? They're not physical objects, but again, thoughts. You are aware of thoughts. If you close your eyes right now, there's some sort of chatter going on. There's some sort of interpretation, perhaps, of these words, of perhaps what you want to hear or what you don't want to hear. That's going on. So there's an awareness of the thoughts. So you start to see, okay, it is not. There's an awareness of the mind even. And so you start to become aware of awareness itself. And it's an invitation to do so here. Become aware that you are aware. Rather than being aware of a thought, being aware of an experience of sensation or whatnot, be aware that you are aware. And see if you can locate this awareness somewhere. You may say, oh, it feels like it's in my head. But as your inquiry sort of becomes subtler and it becomes more refined, you begin to see that even this sense of being in the head is also a very subtle sensation, which you are aware of. There's an awareness of. So that awareness, that knows even the sense of being in the head, is that located? Can you find a location in the realm of experience there? Is there even a sense of being aware as a something or as a somebody located somewhere. So you see, that's why the teaching of inquiry is so, it's like, look into your direct experience, you know, not resorting to what perhaps we've read or perhaps we've been taught, but see clearly that anything that you can locate in time and space is something that there's an awareness of. But that awareness, that knowing of these limitations, we cannot find a location to. We cannot find. We can't pinpoint to. Oh, it is here, or it is there. So,
Could I ask a follow-on question then?
go ahead.
In your opinion, would you say we are alive because we are conscious, or we are conscious because we are alive?
I would say perhaps both and neither and beyond. You know, so that is the ongoing thing, and you know, that is the perhaps even unanswerable question, is that, you know, because without the body, without knowing, without knowledge, there can be no body and mind. There is never an experience of the body and mind outside of awareness. But without the body, the world, right, the mind, what is there to know? So perhaps they give rise to each other. They arise codependently in the principle which is beyond knowledge, to the principle which witnesses both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raf. Thank you for that little awareness exercise, Sonny. That was profound. I see Anne with a hand up.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, and I'm enjoying this conversation about awareness. And I'd like to dig into that a little more if we could.
Yeah,
I have been doing a practice of awareness, and what we just did and what you described feels to me a little different, in that it feels like a lot of efforts being required to be curious, to be inquiring. And so the practice that I have been doing has been more focused on finding a space of pure awareness everywhere. So within my physicality, and then outside of myself. And I'm trying to learn to do this, you know, in a meditation state of finding stillness, but also being awake, you know, with my eyes open, trying to be present in the world, which that's a little bit more challenging, and I'm learning, you know, I'm just delving into that. So I don't know that the question's really clear or formed, but I'd just like to know more about, you know, it seems like this awareness is a really powerful thing. It seems to me, from all that I've been doing, that that's exactly what is needed, certainly for me, but I think for the planet, right? Just to be in this space of pure awareness and letting everything dissolve that's disorderly. So can you share any more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So see how even when we begin meditation with the belief that I am this body doing meditation, sitting down for meditation. You know, like the body is what we are identified with, is what we believe ourselves to be. You know, I am so-and-so with this past, this history, this hopeful future. You know, so our subject of our experience is the body, right? Like I am the body, and I am aware of this world. That body is the subject, along maybe mixed with mind. That's the subject, what we call person. And I'm traveling through this world, you know, through time and space, from past to future. As we begin to meditate, you start to, again, right, the same invitation as in the previous sort of guidance, you start to see that just like the changing world, right? Because as you start, the body is the subject, which you feel like, this is me. I am the unchanging me, and the world outside of me is changing. You see? So now you start, as you meditate and as you grow in awareness, you start to see that not only is the world changing, but the body that I take myself to be as well. You start to see that that is also very changeful. You knew this all your life, but you sort of took it for granted. You just take yourself to be a changeful self, a changeful object in the realm of other objects. So, you know, but you see what's happening with meditation. Your reference point of what you are is becoming deeper than the body. Previously, I was the body in the world, but now I'm seeing that there's an awareness of the body itself. It sees, just like the world is changing, it sees the body also change, yet it does not change itself. You still feel like me, myself, I. You know, you say, I had this personality, I had this hairstyle, a body looked like this. It has gone through so many phases, yet you still feel like I am a changeless. There's some sort of continuousness that you feel about yourself. And your experience of closest experience of yourself, even closer than the body, is I. You know, I always give the example, like right now, we're having this talk or whatever, your closest experiences, I am aware of this talk. I am talking. But let's say when we were 10 years old, running around in a park, totally different body, totally different thoughts going on, totally different belief system, personality, but still, look back to that moment. You still experienced it through the same sense of I, through the same sense of being aware. So the body is changing, but the awareness is not changing. So the reference point is becoming deeper, and it goes subtler than the body, which is a physical object. So then you start to become aware of the changing thought flow. And this is where the realm of self-image is, right? Our idea of who we are and what the world is, our belief systems. So that then, okay, so that's the reference point for where I live life, from where I live life, right? But now even this chatter is also becoming an object of your seeing. So that's why it feels so powerful, because this awareness is more you than the idea you have of yourself. It is more you than what we have taken ourselves to be than all our life. So meditation is sort of that, it treading the path of the unknown, because being aware is not. So just seeing some noise come in. But being aware is, so in the realm of everything that changes, right? The world that is changing, the body that is changing, the mind that is changing. What is the only thing that is not changing? And you see, that is the investigation. And you see that everything being very changeful is being seen. There's an awareness of it. You say, I am aware of it. So inquiry is an invitation to waking up to the possibility that you are that awareness in which this whole realm of appearances is coming and going, including the idea that you have of yourself, including the body, including the personality. And so your reference point of yourself is growing deeper and deeper and deeper. And there's nothing personal about this awareness. You know, we say my awareness. What we are talking about is like, oh, me as a body having this awareness. But as we grow in this recognition, you start to see that this knowing, you see, is impersonal. In it, the personality it's seen. There's an awareness of it. So it's almost like being a nobody in your true identity. Yet then embracing the fullness of being a somebody. But only when we are empty of all these ideas and all these sorts of belief systems, being completely empty of personal identity, can we even then fully embrace the personal identity. With that deepened reference point, only then can we live in the changefulness of experience without suffering. But taking ourselves to be the changeful self, we suffer, right? Because we always feel like we are not whole, we are not complete. We experience our limitations as body and mind, and we just take that for granted. But so meditation is waking you up to the limitless aspect of you, and I don't even like to say aspect of you because it is you here and now. You are that which is aware. And that's even prior to the experience of your body, the experience of your thought flow, which is telling you about what you are, but that is projection. Even that idea about who you are and what you've been through and what you hopefully will go through is being seen by judgmentless, commentary-less seeing, awareness, knowing. And that is very factual. That is an experience which does not leave you. It is the changeless within the realm of the changeful. And so that is the sort of the direct path to self-knowledge, by becoming aware of the only thing that does not change and seeing that, no, that is me, right? Like, I'm not becoming aware of that as a separate object over there. We also even say, I'm going within myself, but that's even implying that, like, you know, it's somewhere at a distance deep within me. No. Is it not the one looking? Is it not the one seeing? So we start to wake up to that limitless reality as ourself, not something else. And this deeply frees us from the burden of our belief systems that we are constantly carrying around, from the burden of our past experience, which we, you know, there's such great identification with it. It creates a distance between you and even your mental dialogue, which is constantly causing all sorts of trouble sometimes, you know? Like right now there's a, you know, outside my window, there's a highway. And when let's say like, sometimes they have some construction noise or whatever. And a thought immediately will arise sometimes, you know, that's like, oh, you know, that's sort of annoying. Or sometimes, you know, even like you're outside of your own window, some sort of traffic happens and automatically some sort of judgment arises. In identification with mind, we sort of take ourselves to be that judgment. And we believe in that, you know, oh yeah, that's so annoying. The moment you believe in that thought, it literally colors your experience. Now, every single car that passes by is just going to annoy you more and more and more. We've identified, we've believed in that thought. It has literally it has filtered our experience through that particular thought, that idea. Now, as we grow in this meditative presence and this awareness, you see this dialogue always arising, all these judgments, all these opinions, and you can see them as objects rather than them arising as what I am, as my opinion, my belief, my truth. We start to create a distance also. And you start to notice how, you know, even your own belief systems and judgments are very destructive oftentimes. And those can be sort of cleansed out, discarded. And so not only is your reference point for yourself much deeper, and that in the place of the changeless, which itself is peace, which itself is happiness. So you're quite literally now approaching the changeful life from the place of happiness, rather than taking yourself to be a changeful, restless, fearful self, chasing happiness. You're coming from happiness, and you're only spreading that presence, that peace, that happiness, you know? So that's why I feel so powerful, because it is closer to you than close. It's more intimate than to you than any thought. It is you, yourself. And so it's a total shifting of paradigm.
So I'm getting this sense too of like we're being the viewer of it, we're the observer of it. So the awareness is the viewer.
Yes, it's that which witnesses all that arises and subsides. The world arising and subsiding, changing, appearing and disappearing. The body also, you know, constantly changing, appearing as this, appearing as that. The mind also. That which knows, which is you. You know, I'm not coming into your experience telling you what you're aware of. You say, I am aware. So that is the witness of all that is arising in mind and what we call world. And we really start to see this to be all one, you know. World is, we can just say, an extension of mind, the appearance of solidity, you know. But yes, it's an ever deepening of this understanding that I am just the seeing of what arises. But by becoming into this emptiness of personality, then can we really give full life and expression and authenticity to the expression that whatever theme is playing out here in this body mind. now that gets released of all this self-consciousness, meaning at every path, we're just like, oh, there's always this insecurity about, am I thinking the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I going down the right path? Am I being the right way in front of this person or that person? Am I successful? Am I feel like, right? All of these sorts of egoic tendencies and belief systems, they start to dissolve, because you understand, right, that at the heart of it, you are none of this. And whatever is arising, it is following that same universal intelligence, which again, is keeping your heart beating. So it's almost like a surrendering to that. It's almost like a letting go to that. It's a letting go of doership. It is a letting go of ownership of everything that arises, of every thought, of every emotion. And so in that way, that is the burden you're letting go of, which results in peace, which helps you just discover the innate peace. It is not a gaining of or attaining the peace. You're seeing that to be the place from where you begin.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. I see Rhonda with a hand up, and then we'll have time for one more after that.
Sonny, thank you. I'm going to stay with the video off. I've been sick for 4 days.
Sure. No
And I just want to let you know that your inquiry and answer to Lucy's question about pain immediately dissolved the pain in my kidneys. They've been really quite intense, and I mean, I'm aware now that the pain is there, but it's just doesn't have the same charge. So thank you. And my basic question is, how do we begin working with you? Because I find your presence, your energy is so pure and aligned, at least to my energy. And I would love to just begin to work with you. So if you could tell us, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. And I'm happy that guidance helped you. And then you see, it's so funny. Like, we have this belief system that like we need a long sort of strenuous practice, right? The mind wants a long practice, all these steps to find that relief from suffering. It believes that, this is somewhere far away from you. But, that's what really resonated with me in my path. The two main teachings that I shared, acceptance and inquiry, is that it's very, very direct. It's here and now. It just tunes you into that which is real, in alignment with that which is. So I'm very happy that helped you. And you see, tomorrow you may fall out of that understanding. The momentum of the preferences and the resistances and the constant chatter is so strong that you may fall out of that understanding. Know that to be a natural part of this process, this practice. But see that this awareness is always available. It is always here and now. So all it takes is just a willingness to ease into it, relax into you, which is prior to the psychological chatter and this resistance towards what is. And that always brings a sense of relief and a sense of ease and a dissolving of the mental suffering. Suffering is only in mind, you see. In just the pure knowing of what is, there can even be an uncomfortable sensation or experience here, yet we allow that to appear and disappear, right? All of it is passing. The good experiences, all our success, we have open arms to, and they do arise, and we can't cling on to them no matter how hard we try. Just like that, even the pain, even the negative circumstances, you cannot cling on to no matter how hard you try, but you certainly can't resist them. In resisting them, you really, we color our experience with that. But if we have this open attitude, if this open approach, if we approach life with this acceptance, this allowance, then truly this play of positive, negative, up and down continues to occur, but it no longer pulls us into suffering it. You see, just like the space of this room is a pure allowance. Right now I have, this mic and this camera and this table here, right? The space of the room is allowing that. It doesn't have any judgment as to what should be in this room and what should not be in this room. I could take a pile of garbage and put it in this room. The space of this room has no rejection towards it. It does not benefit or lose anything from the garbage or the table. So that is the nature of awareness. It is pure allowance. It is pure acceptance. When the mind resists, it is going against your very nature of allowance. You are acceptance. It's not even something you're doing. You are that allowance. So you are that same space of knowing, of awareness, which is allowing whatever is known, whatever you are aware of, including pain. So in that way, this teaching frees us from the grasp of just suffering this cycle of pain and pleasure, which actually the only thing that this cycle of pain and pleasure is helping you wake up to is this, that you are beyond pain and pleasure. So not only that, but also it dissolves our belief system about what we are, what life is, and it wakes you up to reality, the truth of yourself. So remain with that practice and allow yourself the room to fall out of it and sort of not be able to practice it. It's all a path of the deepening of that. But yeah, I'm very, very happy that it helped you. And to learn more about this teaching, you can either go to my YouTube channel, which is Personal Mastery Quest, or personalmasteryquest.com. That's my website. And you'll see everything there in regards to your inquiry about wanting to go get to know this teaching a little better.
Thank you, Rhonda. We will go to Leah.
Hi, Sunny.
Hi, Leah. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming. I really started out with you in your videos from a few years ago, which were mostly abundance, manifestation, reality transurfing. So I am wondering if you have integrated your past focus on those things into your work now, or if you've more separated from that. And I think the real question is, how motivated are you towards things, sex, love, abundance, money? Are you just less attached and then actually bring that more into your life? Or how do you integrate all of that?
Sure. Yeah, those teachings, you know, I have over like 500 videos. I remember that I used to be so on fire about that, you know, like when I started discovering those teachings regarding law of attraction, reality transurfing, it really allowed me to transform and reprogram my belief system into, you know, being empowered and whatnot. And so what I've noticed is that in a way I've distanced myself from consciously practicing those things. But what I've noticed is that as I've focused more in these principles of meditation, acceptance, and inquiry, your thought, feeling, and action are automatically in alignment with what you are sort of trying to practice mentally through those teachings, you know? So in that way, it is a seamless integration. And what I ask everyone to acknowledge perhaps is that in your own journey, you will go through these phases where you are very like, you know, passionate or diehard about one particular thing. And then you practice that for a very long time until the very end, you exhaust it. Every single belief system, every single paradigm is meant to be exhausted and transcended. And we shouldn't have any attachment to any teacher, any teaching, but just the desire for the truth of ourselves, the truth of all of this. You know, what is all of this, you know? So as long as we have that genuine interest and that curiosity in truth, we will continue to just encounter this teaching and that teacher, and we will transcend all of them. Ultimately, to not needing any teaching or teacher, but rather just this inner intelligence, you know? So what I've noticed is that, yeah, it has seamlessly integrated, but my focus has completely shifted. Previously, I was very focused in material experience. You know, I wanted to have these peak experiences and achieve great things. And I was very ambitious. I've started to see that has sort of, that itself, because it was causing me restlessness. And I saw that, you know, there was no great happiness there, at least for myself. So I've distanced myself from those things. Now they have sort of fallen away. And now I have this sort of openness towards life where I have a general theme and an inspiration of what I'm trying to do. Mainly it is just what I enjoy. I'm very fortunate to be able to have these talks and do this for a living. You know, it's an absolute blessing. So literally my day just goes by and what I enjoy doing, which is sort of making this content and having these sorts of talks and whatnot, and just my spiritual practice. The whole focus has shifted away from just achievement and desire for growth and all that stuff into just having this openness towards life. And I'm seeing more and more that as you are open, right, life is always already moving on its own accord. Like today you woke up, you know, like life is already unfolding spontaneously. Things are already arising that you need to do, you need to take care of. Some are good, some are annoying, some are bad, you know? So this intelligence takes care of everything. What needs to be done will be done. What needs to be brought forth through you will be brought forth through you. It's actually better if we get out of the way and we live in that sort of openness and allowance of letting what comes come, letting what goes go. In this, we grow in intelligence and intuition and happiness, but also we start to discover that which is beyond what is coming and going. So I'm no longer motivated towards chasing anything in the realm of experience. Yet I have my focus right now is just this deep curiosity for the truth of who I am, what is all this, what is reality. And so that's the inward journey. And ultimately, you know, even these teachings will be exhausted. No particular teaching is the truth. It is simply a pointing to the truth. So in that way, again, never getting hooked onto any signpost, even inquiry, you know, but words are only as powerful as they have the capacity to point you to that which is beyond words, beyond language. And so, yeah, so that's the current theme of my life.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you for having me, by the way.
Thank you so much, Sonny. This has been truly an amazing meeting. So if you ever, you know, want to come back, you're always welcome. Or if you ever can think of a way that the Quantum Healing Collective can support you, man, we would be happy to do anything for you. So
thank you so much. And I'm wishing you the best with your project and your work as well. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. So what we do is we close with a prayer to harness all the energy we've gathered here. So we reach out and we try to imagine ourselves locking arms with other members of the fellowship. So just reach your arms out and lock up. We dedicate the merit of this meeting to all those awakening at this precious time. May our efforts to better ourselves help shift the planetary consciousness from fear into love. May this energy ripple out into the world and awaken those with closed hearts, illuminate closed minds, and inspire all to live within the presence of compassion and generosity. Thank you all for being here. It's been a great meeting. Have a great day.
Everybody.
Big love, all. Big love.
Big
Sonny,
love.
awesome.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you, Sonny. Bye, everybody.
Great questions to everybody. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the new people. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You got every great speakers every week. Come back.
Thank you. I will.
Awesome. Thank you.
See you next time.
Awesome. Beautiful.
Have a beautiful day.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Peace out, y'all.
Bye-bye.